Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another Jurassic World Dominion release to take a look at. Although this time it's not technically a figure or a model or anything like that, it's a Christmas tree ornament. You can see that we have a very interesting Allosaurus, though he's kind of hard to see because the shadow is completely obliterating his head right there. But this was found, and as you can also tell right there, this was found at Walmart. I actually just found this, and I also found a ornament that has the Jurassic Park VHS tape, which is pretty cool. But again, this is definitely something that I was looking forward to snagging when I came across it, because I had heard about this a little while back. Thought it was kind of strange that they decided to go with an Allosaurus of all random species. Still pretty happy because I love Allosaurus, so anytime I can get another Allosaurus, especially a Jurassic World style version, I'm definitely happy about that. The packaging is pretty basic. It's pretty much your standard as far as these Hallmark ornaments go. So let's go ahead, pop this out of the box and check it out. And here is our ornament, and it definitely looks pretty fun, honestly. Not amazing or anything like that, but as far as the likeness goes to a Jurassic World style Allosaurus, I feel like they did a pretty good job, honestly, especially when it comes to that head sculpt. You can see the head sculpt if my camera would focus on it. That head sculpt looks pretty good. Not too much going on as far as paint, but we do have a little bit to it, so that's a plus. The only downside to things like this, of course, with it being an ornament, of course you have the area to hang it that kind of gets in the way, but it also is a little bit of a bummer because when you have something like this, there's just no way it's going to stand. It's going to keep falling on its face, and it's obviously not meant to stand, so I'm sure this isn't a worry of the, of the company of Hallmark, but it definitely, of course, when you're a collector like me that just bought this because it's a really cool Allosaurus figure, you would love for it to stand, but that's just the way it is. It unfortunately does not. But let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Allosaurus, again, you can definitely see that it certainly has the overall likeness to a Jurassic World style Allosaurus, so that is a plus straight away. It's not like some random figure that looks nothing like the species it's meant to represent. It definitely looks like a Jurassic World Allosaurus. The coloration is basically a gray, which of course isn't exactly what you would see on an Allosaurus from Jurassic World, but it still looks okay, and it kind of looks like we have variations of grays. We have a little bit of a lighter gray and then a darker gray, and they are basically just kind of dry brushed through, it looks like, for the majority. You could just kind of see the different areas showing up as far as the different grays. It just kind of blends and pops up all over the place. But you can see the eyes are also actually painted pretty nicely. You've got a yellow eye with a black pupil. You can also see the nostrils there at the tip of the snout. So that's definitely a plus to see that the eyes are painted so nicely. You can see the mouth is in an open position. The teeth are pretty sloppily painted, but you don't really expect perfection on an ornament like this. Definitely not terrible, but it's not great either. One thing, however, that is pretty cool is if you look here in the inside of the mouth, if my camera would stay focused long enough, you can see that we have a nice pinkish tone. You can also see the tongue in there, but it does sport a gloss coat on the inside of the mouth, so that's something I honestly wouldn't have expected. That added a little bit of realism to the figure to have that gloss coat on the inside of the mouth, but it definitely looks cool. As you move along the course of the Allosaurus, you see some ridges up here on the back. You can also see some bumpy osteoderms and stuff there up on the back of the neck, leading down into the lower part of the neck. The ridges running along the back are a nice light blue, but the rest of the figure continues to maintain that grayish look. There's not too much as far as skin texture. You could kind of see it a little bit, but this isn't one of the most highly detailed models or anything that you're ever going to see, especially when it comes to an Allosaurus. Get this thing out of here. Oh, it's stuck there on the other arm. But as far as the arms, as you move down, you can see some muscle definition and stuff to the arms. The fingers are kind of all blended together. You don't really see any nails or anything like that on the hands. It's just kind of a little bit of a blended mess as far as the fingers go. So that's a little ugly, but it's also not the worst thing ever. You can kind of pick up on the rib cage a little bit there in the stomach region. You can also see a little bit of skin wrinkles and stuff in the lower part of the stomach, and also leading back here because this leg's trailing a little bit. So you would kind of see some skin stretching, so it's nice that they added in that little bit of detailing. You can kind of pick up on the basic structure of the Allosaurus is pretty nicely done. You again see that the ridges continue to run along the back of our Allosaurus, and they do vary in size. You can see they start out pretty small, but then there's random larger ones that pop up, and then smaller ones. They get a little bit bigger right here, a little past the hip region, but then kind of taper off to smaller ones as we run out the length of the tail. Moving into the hip area. You can kind of make out the hip bone a little bit, but the tail's really quite hiding it. You've also got some muscle definition in both the thigh and calf, and then leading down to the foot. The foot sculpt does actually look pretty nice, and we have nails down here. Unlike with the hands, we didn't really have any nails, but it doesn't look like there's any actual specific paint for the nails that I'm picking up on. Maybe. It's kind of hard to tell, but it kind of looks like there might be a slight difference as far as the gray, but it's not a super obvious difference or anything like that, but a pretty nice looking, fairly bird-like foot sculpt. And then you lead up here into the tail, and the tail is incredibly curved. In fact, it curves all the way back up around and then over top of the back of the dinosaur, leading back up here into the neck. So a very, very sharp, pretty ridiculous looking curve to the tail that I don't think an Allosaurus would have done. In fact, I'm not even positive an Allosaurus could pull that off. But as you look over here to the other side, you've got those really nice Allosaurus crests. Everything looks pretty decent over here. Again, you kind of have texturing to the skin, but it's not all that nice looking. You don't really see too much as far as scale, detail, or anything. You can definitely pick up on the rib cage again right there, and you can kind of see that lighter gray creeping in and out of every one of the ribs there as we move along, again showing off that kind of mixture of the grays like I was talking about earlier. You can definitely see this arm is in a different position than the opposing arm. You can pick up on the muscle definition, but again, see how the fingers are all kind of blended together and don't really look all that great. You again have some nice muscle definition in the leg leading down. You can see the kneecap right there. Nice foot sculpt. It definitely looks like there's painted nails, so it looks a little more obvious over here, more so than what we saw on the other side. There are dew claws as well, but those definitely don't have any paint to them. And then again, you lead up here and you wrap around the tail again out here into that incredibly, almost ridiculous curve. I'm not a huge fan of the curve in the tail, but outside of that, it is still a pretty fun-looking Allosaurus. Certainly not the best, but again, being a random Christmas ornament found at Walmart, it's definitely not terrible. Luckily, we have a whole bunch of PNSO stands over here that I usually get in the models, but don't end up using because the models normally stand fairly decent on their own. But we have a PNSO stand that we can use to hold this up. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at right around 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. It would, of course, be much longer if the tail wasn't so curved. And then for a height, about 2.5 inches or around 6.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Allosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, and this is another one of those figures where I feel like we don't really need very many size comparisons because it seems pretty obvious to me, especially if you are familiar with this type of decoration, this type of ornament that are at Walmart every single year and have had numerous Jurassic World versions out previously. And definitely you would have a pretty good idea already of the size because it's right there in the same size range as so many of the previous Jurassic World style ornaments. But if not, again, hopefully these figures here will help to again show you roughly what the size is. So I didn't intend on making this a very long review. I kind of just wanted to quickly show you guys how cool this Allosaurus is and let you know that it is available at Walmart. Again, definitely not your most highly detailed figure or model or anything like that that you're ever going to see, but it does replicate a Jurassic World style Allosaurus sculpt-wise pretty nicely. The unfortunate thing about it is that incredibly ridiculous curve in the tail I really don't like, but outside of that, it definitely is a fairly fun-looking Allosaurus. Again, sculpt-wise, it absolutely looks like a Jurassic World style Allosaurus, and specifically, it looks like the one that we see in Dominion. Paint-wise, not so much. There's not really too much going on as far as the coloration for this figure. It's just basically some grays and then a little bit of blue running down the back, and then we have painted eyes and a mouth. Although the paint is a little lackluster, it still looks pretty good for what it is. It just doesn't perfectly replicate a Jurassic World Allosaurus as far as the coloration goes. But they've done a pretty good job of kind of giving a few different tones of the gray, so it sort of has like a fairly lifelike appearance as far as the skin tone and everything. I would have really liked to have seen more texturing on it, but being just a random Hallmark Christmas ornament, I really, again, don't expect perfection. So I feel like what we did get here is pretty decent, and the fact that we actually have a gloss coat on the inside of the mouth is pretty impressive, and some really nicely painted eyes on top of that. So is this the best Allosaurus ever? Not even close, but is it a pretty cool Christmas ornament? Absolutely. And I love the fact that they had chosen to go with an Allosaurus of all random species for this year's ornament. I would have liked to have seen a Carnotaurus rather than the Allosaurus, but the Allosaurus is still a very, very welcome addition to my collection. I love Allosaurus, and a Christmas ornament Allosaurus is definitely not a bad thing. So if you are interested in picking this up, head to your local Walmart right now. Make sure you check the area where the Christmas ornaments are. Mine had just put these out, so they're probably just starting to show up at different Walmarts across the United States. Grab yourself this very cool Allosaurus and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.